Scene 2. A Rome, a public place. This is a big scene where we're going to see pretty much the entire cast on stage at once. And this is where, if you need to jump back to the character list, it's very, very helpful. We are going to see Caesar come back victorious. We're going to see Mark Antony, who's there. We'll be introduced to Brutus and Cassius, who are the two main conspirators. You've heard of the phrase conspiracies before, right? Conspiracies and conspiracy theorists, those individuals who kind of go against the common agreed upon set of principles or the person in charge. And so we have the conspirators, which are the, if you want to call them, the bad guys. But that's assuming, Caesar's a good guy. But we're going to meet all of these people. And as you just skim the first page here, you're going to see that a lot of these names end in the letter C. So don't get confused and understand, their relation to one another and their importance. I don't think this is very difficult, but it's going to take some thought to, okay, so that's a good guy, that's okay, that's a bad guy. Just understand where we're going with it. They did mention briefly in the previous scene that this is the Lupercal, which is a popular a holiday season during this culture. And there's a certain tradition that Caesar talks to Mark Antony about in a little bit, and see if you can pick up on that. In a couple pages, there's a big scene dealing with Cassius and Brutus. These are the two main conspirators, okay? Brutus is really the protagonist of the story, and Cassius is kind of the guy in the shadows who's trying to really sway Brutus and these other people to take down Caesar. So we need to establish why Caesar is so bad, and that's what really shows up during this particular scene. So really stay focused and stay paying attention, especially once Brutus and Cassius begin their talking back and forth, and it's very much trying to not come right out and say we need to do this, but yet kind of leading so and so down a certain path. So, Act 1, Scene 2. Act 1, Scene 2, a very important scene where we meet the characters, where we find out a lot of their background feelings on Caesar and other individuals, especially Cassius. We find out what really drives him. If there is a villain in this piece, I think Cassius is the logical choice, even though several people are going to do the killing. He is definitely the one to push this along, kind of like pushing a rock down a hill, and builds up steam and speed. Go back to the very beginning of the scene, please. Very beginning of Scene 2. Where we see Calpurnia. This is her, she has one other real scene. This is just kind of a little appearance. She says, Calpurnia is right next to Caesar, and Caesar says, "Stand you directly in Antonio's way when he doth run his course. Antonio," Caesar, my lord, "forget not in your speed, Antonio, to touch Calpurnia. For our elders say, the barren, touched in this holy chase, shake off their sterile curse." So looking at footnotes, with this being the Lupercal, there is this big race. And there is rumored that, there is, their belief that, if somebody is touched during this particular procession, on this particular day, they will become fertile. Which might be important for somebody who is ruling an empire. Or in a position to take control and be that lone ruler. They want a child. They want a male heir. And so there's some backstory here that maybe they're sterile. Maybe they don't have any kids yet. And so, hey, honey, don't forget, stand in Antony's way so when he runs by, he'll, make you, not that he will impregnate her, but just that, that'd be an interesting phrase. But it makes her able to be fertile. And so that's just a quick little introduction to Antony, because he runs right off. He's a very important, strong character that really we don't get to see much of until the actual execution of or murder rather of Caesar. But we hear people always talk good things about him. The next page, 777. There is a person named a soothsayer. An individual who maybe a fortune teller, somebody that predicts the future. As Caesar passes, he goes, "Beware the Ides of March." What? Who said? What? Who's talking to Caesar? He talks of himself in third person, so he's important. Who talks to Caesar? It's I. Bring him forward. What did you say? Beware the Ides of March. What do I have to be worried about the Ides of March? I'm Caesar. I'm powerful. What do I have to? This is an old man. Go away. But this is an element where we see a little bit of foreboding, a little bit of warning. And right before Caesar's eventually killed, there's going to be another moment where if he just listened, if he just did something different and wasn't so arrogant, he might have survived at least that particular day. And Caesar brushes him off. He is a dreamer. Let us leave him pass. We're going to move on. And here's where we see Brutus and Cassius, remain as everybody else kind of meanders off. And they really talk about, we really see how Cassius thinks Brutus is an honorable individual. And we will see this play out as Brutus starts to get these dark thoughts. A lot of them Cassius puts in his mind. But he starts to think, I would never do anything that would be against Rome. The only reason that I would ever pick up arms would be in support of Rome. Brutus is a good guy. We feel for him. So really, this is a tragedy of Julius Caesar, but it's a tragedy of Brutus, because we established this good person, and Cassius is a conniving person, somebody who tells everything that guy wants to hear so that he can manipulate him, and that's what he's going to do. And so in here, he'll talk about line 58 or so. He says, Cassius is saying things to Brutus. He goes, "I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath this age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes." And so he's referring here to, your lineage, your family history, and your father, and, your lineage of wanting, wanting something more. And there's a lot of people who wish that you had his eyes. They wish that you had a little bit of ambition there. And even to some degree, maybe even Caesar, they wish that you had Caesar's place. They would rather have you. Just kind of whispering these little things into his ear to get him going. Because Brutus' response, "Into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius, that you would have me seek into myself for that which is not in me?" What are you getting at? Why are you implying things and getting me to think about things that I don't think about? What are you getting at? And so he's not necessarily suspicious that they're trying to plan an assassination, but yet where are you getting at? Where are you taking this conversation? As they're talking throughout these next few pages, there's this shouting that happens off stage. And the thing to remember with Shakespeare, one, is that you're always watching a play, is we can't have tons of action on stage. You can't have tons of people on stage at once for a prolonged period of time, because you won't be able to understand what's going on. There's too much stuff to look at, too much stuff to listen. You're distracted, and the words get muddled down. And so while Brutus and Cassius are talking, we hear, "Yay, hip hip hooray," stuff happening off stage. And so something's going on, and that draws their attention. And so Brutus there at 79A goes, "What means this shouting? Looking up, I do fear people chose Caesar for the king." He hears this uproar, and he goes, "Oh no. Oh no, no, no. I fear that they've made Caesar the king." And that's not what they want. Brutus wants this to remain a republic rather. Okay? Not completely a democracy, but our early government models are based on Roman government. And so he's worried that they're kind of pushing that government aside, and that they're going to make Caesar king. And king has a lot more power than a government. And so that's what he's fearful of. And so Cassius, this is probably the best thing that he could hear. He goes, "Do you fear it? Then must I think you would not have it so?" So that you wouldn't be in support of that? No. Oh, interesting. Brutus, "I would not, Cassius, yet I love him well. But wherefore do you hold me here so long? Why are we talking so long? What is it that you would impart to me? I do not want him king, but I love him." I'm a supporter of him. I'm a supporter of Rome. So anyways, what do you want with me? Why are we sitting here talking? Why are we going on? And this is where we really find out Cassius' motivation. A very important part of this play that if you missed, you want to come back to. It's his monologue on the next page in line 90. Follow along. But really about 97 is where he starts it. And you find where this resentment, where this hatred for Caesar comes. Because he's already referred to Caesar as being, oh, the immortal Caesar. Well, we know he's not immortal. And Cassius knows because he has a history with them. Cassius says, line 97, I was born free as Caesar. So were you. We both have fed as well, and we can both endure the winter's cold as well as he. For once, and here's a backstory, for once, upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, Darst thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point. So while the river was raging, here, let's go, I challenge you to a race. Well, something happens and Caesar gets a cramp, gets tired, pulls up lame. Remember, this is Caesar, the immortal, godlike, everybody thinks is a god. But I heard him whining and complaining and asking for help. Help me, Cassius, or I sink. And so I, Cassius, as Aeneas, so remember, look at footnotes to help you out here, the legendary founder of Rome, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder the old Archesium. So I went out and I saved him. This immortal, this god. Brutus, he is just like you and me. And I saved his life. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Where would we be nowadays? We wouldn't be worried about this tyrant becoming a king. And so he, on the top of the next page, and this man has now become a god. And Cassius is a wretched creature and must bend his body if Caesar carelessly but not on him. Have you seen that before? Movies, emperors, they walk in and everybody just bows, the king nods, very, very nonchalant, very solemn. I saved you, man. You're just a man. I saved you, and you're a god, and I'm a wretched, and I have to bow. You should bow to me. And so we see the anger and the resentment. And this story is much more powerful if you understand the motivations for these characters. And this is, like I said, a very important scene. But we get to see Cassius, why he does not like doing this so. Would you enjoy that? You save somebody's life, and whenever they're in the room, they don't acknowledge it, they just nod at you, and you have to, oh, excuse me, let me bow. Would you enjoy that? Probably not. And you see this person being treated as a god, and you know, man, I should have let you die. Then we'll see how immortal you really are. And so that's a very important telling moment. In addition, look around line 120. He says that he had a fever when he was in Spain. So this is another little story to show him how he's normal and immortal. Amortal, rather, not immortal. And when the fit was on him, I did mark how he did shake. 'Tis true, this God did shake. His coward lips did from their color fly, and that same eye, whose bend doth all the world, did lose his luster. I did hear him groan. I, and that tongue of his, that bade the Romans mark him, and write his speeches in their books. Alas, it cried, give me some drink, Titinius, as a sick girl. Ye gods, it doth amaze me, a man of such a feeble temper should so get the start of the majestic world and bear the palm alone. Footnote, oh, that this individual should be the carrier of the prize and rule the world. It makes me sick. What a very powerful monologue, that page and a half. And it's really just a tale of his past and the two stories of how Caesar is just a common person and how angry Cassius is. So you need to come back to this moment, if you ever forget who Cassius is or his motivation, and fully understand what is driving him and why do I have to treat that man like a god? I heard him cry and weep like a little girl, and I saved him when he asked for help. And now this person is supposed to be this mammoth of a man. And so that really struggles, hit at his heart. And so then there's another shout Brutus, oh, another general shout. I do believe that these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar. Just to kind of speed it up a little, because I don't want to go down every single line of this. We see Cassius and Brutus really talk about, what they want from the Republic. And we see that, Cassius is really pushing this way, and we really find that Brutus is, oh man, I like Caesar, but I just really don't want to go down that road of him as the king. And each time they hear this shouting, they think, oh, they made him king? What is going on? And so it's not a very good inward emotion. Look when everybody enters again, around line 180 or so. Find that in your play. Everybody starts to enter. Brutus says, the games are done and Caesar is returning. Cassius, as they pass by, pluck Casca by the sleeve, and he will, after his sour fashion, tell you what hath proceeded worthy note today. So, everybody's coming back on stage slowly. Oh, look, they're coming back. You grab Casca. Just pluck him on the shoulder and on the sleeve, and he'll come and talk to us when he can, and we'll find out what happened since we missed it. So really, Casca is going to serve as a messenger, not just for these two people, but for all of the audience, because we don't know what the shouting was about. But we're going to find out. Brutus, I will do so. But look you, Cassius, the angry spot doth glow on Caesar's brow, and all the rest look like a chidden train, a scolded band of followers. Calpurnia's cheek is, so something's happened. She's all pale. Everybody else is just kind of has their head down. And Caesar looks a little angry, a little lost and disheveled. Something happened. We want to know what happened. The next page on 782, Caesar, the tension for the audience moves to the other end of the stage. And Caesar says, Antonio, come here. Antonio goes, Caesar? Caesar, this is a famous part. He goes, let me have men about me that are fat, sleek-headed men, and such as sleep a night. Yond Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous. And so Caesar comes back on stage, and he noticed Cassius over there, and he's like, Antony, come here. You see that guy over there? I wish that everybody around me was fat and tired and would sleep all night long. I don't want people who think too much. Because people who think too much are dangerous. I'd rather have these larger people around me who sleep well at night. Because if these people are sleeping at night and they're fat, they're not really worrying, and they're not thinking, and they're not maybe planning something. And so he's not saying that he's not saying that Cassius is going to kill me, but he's like, he's weird. We need to keep an eye on him. Antony, fear him not, Caesar. He is not dangerous. He is a noble Roman and well given. Yeah, would he were fatter. I wish he were fatter. But I fear him not. Yet, if my name were liable to fear, so if Caesar could be scared, because Caesar's not scared, but if he could be scared, I do not know the man I should avoid as soon as that spare Cassius. He reads much. He is a great observer, and he looks quite through the deeds of men. He loves no plays as thou dost, Antony. He hears no music. Seldom he smiles, and smiles in such a sort as if he mocked himself. And so there are things about Cassius that cause Caesar to be a little wary. Not scared because, oh, I am Caesar and I can't be scared. But if I could be scared, that's the man that I'd be scared of. He thinks too much. He reads a lot. He doesn't smile much, but when he does, it's almost like he's mocking himself. It's almost like he's a little smile. Like, yes, sir. Oh, no problem, Your Excellency. It's not heartfelt. And so Caesar notices this. Okay? Maybe Caesar remembers the past, the things that we just heard Cassius talk about. So maybe he knows that guy knows that I am not a god-like person. And so he knows to be a little fearful of him. But this is a very important scene. Okay, for many reasons. One, we saw Brutus and Cassius's motivation. But here we find out even more about Cassius and how he is not to be trusted. You keep an eye on him, Antony. Not that I could fear of him, but if I could be fearful, I would be scared of him. Good. So that's really the main the main part there. The last little segment, 783 and 84, the last 3 pages, Caesar and everybody leaves, and finally Casca comes over to talk to Brutus and Cassius. And we find out what happened out there. Okay, and what had happened was that Mark Antony, the loyal subject and follower of Caesar, offered Caesar the crown 3 times. And Caesar rejects it 3 times. This is so important. I need you to pay attention to this. This is the Feast of Lupercal on this holiday. And Cassius's argument is that Caesar is a power-hungry tyrant. He's a dictator. That's his argument. Here is the opportunity that if there is somebody that is seeking power, Mark Antony offers him a crown 3 times. He rejects it 3 times. Does that seem like somebody who wants power? No. And you need to come back to this. And we will come back to it, mentioned many times. But think about this. If Caesar, if he wants power, he's just, no. No, take the crown. No. Wow. And everybody is swooning. They're swooning. They want him to leave, but no, I will continue to rule the way, I don't need to be emperor. I don't need this. And you can almost look at it as a little game. If he just took it right away, yeah, they'd celebrate. But by pushing it off, it makes them, the crowd, want him even more. Those of you that follow sports, when it's free agents with contracts and they want to get them more money, they want to be loved, they might reject the first proposal, hoping that the next proposal equal in value or more in value, do you think? They want it to be more. They want that attention. Okay? So not only was he offered the crown 3 times and rejected, that was huge, but also what was important was that he, they say, had a fit. He fell down. There's, history that says that he was epileptic. Have you seen an epileptic before? Have a seizure? I remember growing up, I had a dog that used to have a seizure and just kind of locks up and foams at the mouth. Have you heard of this before with humans? Hopefully? Yeah. And so they believe that he had epilepsy. Okay, which might be a little bit of what Cassius was referring to when he was sick before in Spain. But he came down, and at the bottom there of Casca talking about offered 3 times, all of that, line 235 and on down, great, they hooted, they hollered. But at the bottom it says that Caesar swooned and fell down. And so he had that little fit. And they say, and honest Casca, he has the falling sickness. And that is that footnote of epilepsy. Casca goes into greater detail. It says, when he came himself again, he said that if he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worship to think it was his infirmity, his sickness. And then everybody, good soul, good soul, good soul. So he passed out. He was saying things, all shaking. That's not something you really want to see your leader do. And all of that stuff. Good. At the very end, a kind of a comical thing, Casca around line 280. He says that Murillus and Flavius, I do have some news. Murillus and Flavius, for pulling scarfs off Caesar's images, are put to silence. Wow, that can mean so many different things, couldn't it? I mean, just looking at the footnote, if you hear somebody silenced nowadays by movies, we probably think killed. But here we can see maybe they're not allowed to, associate with the commoners. Maybe they were exiled. Maybe they were even killed. Okay, the ultimate form of censorship. But that's the last we hear of Murillus and Flavius. But we see that there was a punishment for his action. Casca, Brutus, and Cassius there on the last page kind of wrap up their talking. And just a lot of stuff to process. And Brutus, asked Cassius, hey, you want to have dinner with me tonight? No, I'm committed. How about tomorrow? Okay, well, if your food's worth eating and you still want me, yeah, come. We'll talk. Okay, good. So they set up a dinner date where they can chat. Brutus and Cassius leave each other, and Cassius is left on stage for this little soliloquy where he is the only one on stage. And we get to see the inner work. You can almost imagine him doing this with his hands. Coming up with these plans. And his plan is very interesting, where it's around line 3:9, 3:10. where a little bit below that he goes that I will this night in several hands in at his windows throw, as if they came from several citizens, writings, all tending to the great opinion that Rome holds of his name. So he's going to write all of these different all of these different letters of support for you, Brutus, and throw them in his window tonight. And so he goes, oh, I've got mail. And so he will look at all of these famous big-name people talking about how great Brutus is. So it's not just Cassius mentioning this. He will get all of these letters, not really from those people, forged from Cassius, and it will help Brutus see that, wow, I do have more support. I do have more support. Maybe I want to be more than what I am. That's Cassius's goal, because he does not want Caesar to be in charge for a lot of those reasons we've already talked about. Okay? So again, a very important scene, and it's one that if you did not get a lot of this stuff, the footnotes definitely help. Looking at the translations online definitely help. But come back to this and reread it, reskim it, whatever you need to do, so that you can grab a hold of these particular moments. These motivations of these characters are so important. I think you got to learn these characters so that you can enjoy the story. Sometimes these plays start off really slow because we don't know anything. We don't know anything, and it's hard to stay focused. But eventually, this is really going to pick up, and eventually, when we get to the wars and the executions and the assassinations and stuff, you have to be invested in these characters. And the only way to be invested is to understand what drives them and what motivates them. Okay?